Luftdog's perspective. I sit in the captain's chair on the bridge of the last remaining ship that I know to still be loyal to me. Not even a year ago, I was a king. I ruled a fleet of hundreds of ships. Thousands of pirates followed my command. We had our run of Juke's space. That was until the demon ship arrived. That cursed Terran dreadnought showed up, and his captain let us know that they brokered an amnesty with the Juke government. Our choice was to renounce our piracy and accept societal rehabilitation, or face the Death Order's wrath. It didn't take many of my ships trying their luck with the latter before the overwhelming majority of those remaining opted for surrender. I was left with only 7 ships when all was said and done. So weakened, we had no choice but to disband our company and disperse to parts of space is easier to keep a low profile in. Who knows how many of the other 6 have been brought in, and how many would still answer the call if I gave it. Damn those Terrans! To the 144 hells! I thought I had seen the last of them when I deserted the Navy 3 decades ago. A quarter of a lifetime, building up my political enterprise in my home territory, and in a matter of weeks, those apes show up to ruin my life again. But we Jukt are nothing if not resilient. We've just got to build back our strength, even if it takes another century, and this time do it in a way that won't bring the forces of the hells down on us. Step 1. Find some prey. Prey like the ship I'm looking at now. Hanging in space, caught in the interdiction field we set 2 months ago. It looks like a juicy prize. More than lucrative enough to make all that time waiting worth it. I lift my knuckles from the ground and extend a bulky left arm to my comms officer, mate and formerly pirate queen. Hail them, Kuf Marji, I order, keeping my voice level and disguising the glee I'm feeling at this boon. Hailing now, sir, she answers collectedly, as her fists impact the durable Jut console, only lightly enough to input the commands. I spend a few moments preparing for the onslaught of weeping and pleading that will surely come when the hail is answered. I smirk as I imagine the relief that will come when I let them know all that we're interested in is their valuables. So long as they comply, we'll leave them food and fuel enough to get back to civilization, and claim a loss on their insurance. After all, every crewman and crewwoman that we need to slaughter is one who can't sail on future missions. Every ship whose crew starve to death out in the void is one that won't be raided again. It doesn't make financial sense to slaughter wantonly. Even selling ships isn't as lucrative as leaving them be, to go home, recover their losses, and remain potential targets for the future. Given the shitty prices you get when all your buyers know you're a pirate, that is. Early on in my time in this line of work, I learned that everything goes much smoother when we make sure they know that we don't want to hurt them, but we're more than prepared to. The call is answered, and I'm greeted by the mutilated avian face of a Raquali, with 2 bionic eyes on the left side of her head. She doesn't look as panicked and fearful as I would have liked. Great! I start, but she cuts me off. Sir, I must warn you that you have chosen rather an inopportune target for your piratical venture. She speaks with remarkable sang-froid, given the circumstances. I give a deep, humorless laugh and asked, And what makes you say that, if I may ask, ma'am? We are carrying very little of any readily traded upon value, but what we are carrying is nearly 100 Death Warders. Well over 100 when including their domestic animals who, with but one piscivorous exception, all lean quite heavily to the carnivorous in their diet. I think you and your subordinates will have a bad time if you attempt to board us. Laughing genuinely this time, I answer, That's a bold bluff, Raquali. You really expect us to believe you're carrying so many Terrans? So far from their sector of the galaxy? What makes you think... You can believe what you wish, sir, answers the woman, with her species' typical haughty arrogance. I just wish to give you some idea of who you will be dealing with if you don't unspike us and allow us to go on our way. How you choose to act on that information is up to you. Just don't complain that you weren't warned. My mirth is replaced by anger at the woman's steadfast commitment to this pathetic little pretense of hers. Well then, allow me to return the favor by giving you some idea of who you're dealing with, Birdbrain. I am the once and future Pirate King, Lufdorg Thomvedax. I will not be disrespected. I am not a weakling. I am not a coward, and I am not a fool. I slam my fist into the floor in front of my chair to emphasize the point. It meets the ground with a powerful boom. I then point the forefinger of that now slightly aching hand at the woman and continue. Now, aboard this ship are 23 Class 7s, 145 Class 8s, and one... I pause for effect. Class 9. And unlike your 100 Terrans, my crew actually exist. The woman does not respond, simply raising a brow tuft over her prosthetic, so I continue. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen. In 45 minutes, we are going to board your vessel, preferably by one of the docking ports, but we're equally willing to come via the proboscis, if you are willing to be accommodating. You are going to use the interim to gather up everything on that ship that might have even the tiniest value, and have it ready to transfer to us. We are then going to search the rest of the ship for anything you've tried to hide. If no one does anything stupid, like try to fight us, hide things from us, or in any other way try to even slightly inconvenience us, I might be willing to permit you to leave with all your heads intact and attached. Though, I have to say, your Phantom Terrans have put me in such a foul mood, I think you'll need to be a little extra accommodating to make up for it. Stupid lie, really. I pull my towel from behind myself and hold it in my fist, waggling it at her. If you'd ever even been in the same room as a Terran, I'd eat my tail. Sorry I'm late, Cap, interrupts a voice from the Raqualis side of the call. Had to get here from the gym. The infuriating woman smirks at me briefly before addressing the speaker. Actually, Victor, I believe you're right on time. Would you take over the call with once and future Pirate King Favornifex for me? He seems to have a little trouble understanding our situation aboard. The Raquali dismounts her perch, which retracts into the floor as a seat, with arms at the back, rises in its place. Appearing from the left side of the shot is a midriff and the bottom of a pair of pale-skinned, sweaty, muscular arms that ends in pentadactyl hands and turns my insides cold. The bare-armed man sits, revealing a sweaty face, a sweaty pair of broad shoulders, a head of long coppery hair, and a burning pair of bright green, forward-facing eyes. I start. Not sure how I'm going to continue. Don't fucking speak, just fucking listen, he says, silencing me. My name is Chief Security Specialist Victor Cuddles Taylor, and I'm head of security aboard this ship. Now, any other day, I'd just extract a promise that you ain't gonna kill anyone, and you ain't gonna kidnap anyone, and then I'd be negotiating the transfer of all the ship's valuables to you. Piracy is just a business, after all. A business that relies exclusively on servicing those that don't want to be serviced. But a business, nonetheless. Ain't no amount of financial loss is worth risking bloodshed over. But today is not any other day. Today is today, and due to circumstances I'm unable to relate to you, I can't trust you to come aboard this ship right now. Full stop. Non-negotiable. Now, you might be thinking, oh, they got a Terran and he looks a bit scary. But they've just got the one. We can take him if we overwhelm him with numbers. Right now. But I promise you, I ain't the only Terran on board. I ain't the scariest person on board. We have numbers too, and you ain't gonna overwhelm us. This is your one and only warning. Let us go, or I can't guarantee your safety. Bright Plume out. With that, the coldly furious Terran cuts the call, leaving me in stunned silence. Sir? Asks my mate's voice. I'm... sorry, Komaji, I say, dazed. Your orders, sir, she repeats. Woiket's perspective. And then what happened, Mr. Favornifex? I asked the enormous jolt sitting opposite me. The wrists of his long, thick, blue-skinned arms, fetlocks of his short, thin, clawed, digitigrade legs, and the end of his sturdy tail all chained to the floor, his entire body trembling as his two teal eyes dart back and forth over his round snout, flanked by two tusks with squashy stoppers on their points. I gave the order to board them, he shivers. And I take it from where you're sitting that didn't go well? I ask, with a querying splay of my right hand's finger trotters. It didn't. They had Terrans. Less than they said, but more than I thought. I can see it was quite traumatic for you. But... The massive Class 8 man suddenly fixes me with a desperate and very unnerving stare. That wasn't all. They had 5 arthropods, black and red exoskeletons. They were so strong. Ah, there were the cunts aboard, yes. I oink in confirmation, thinking about the one I saw coming off that ship when the pirates were handed over. No, not the cunts. I know them. Got one on my ship. The cunts are Maxipedal. These were arachnoid and much stronger. He stammers an objection. I smile and reassure him. The Vicunts actually have a few different species from their cradle that they've bred as hosts. These must just be another variant. He doesn't seem to be listening as he continues. Then there were the green children. So many. I'm sorry, I ask, raising an eyebrow quizzically. Green children? Mm-hmm, he confirms maniacally. I don't recognize that description as matching any of those I saw. Would you describe them for me, Mr. Vivornifex? I ask, pulling my hollow towards me and opening the species identifier app. Small, green, tetrapods. Tails, humanoid, bipedal, digitigrade, fast. Green fur or skin, I clarify. But both. Fur, only on their heads and the tips of their tails. How small exactly? Meter. Less. 5 species come up that match what he described, but the highest class among them is a 6. Seems unlikely that they pose any credible threat to a Jukt. Just to be sure, I flip the selection to the tabletop between us and ask, one of these? He glances at them briefly before adamantly answering, no, none of them. Later. Yes, I understand your position, officer. Unfortunately, I'm simply not able to comply. The purple-eyed Terran woman standing between me and her ship's cargo bay smiles down at me, apologetically. There is a reason that diplomatic immunity exists, and I'm afraid what you're asking for is beyond my prerogative to give you. Even anonymized? I oink in query. Just a list of all the species aboard. No names. She waggles her head from side to side, causing that silver streak in her hair to fall artfully across her face. Even just that much is too much, I'm afraid, ma'am, she answers, blasting away the offending strand by aiming a precise jet of air from her mouth to remove it from her vision. I'm sure there was nothing at all impressive, as far as she was concerned. I give a resigned snort, scrunching my rostral plate as I respond, All right then, ma'am. Apologies for delaying your departure, and thank you for taking the former Pirate King's ship out of commission. You are quite welcome, Officer Woket. She smiles with ease. Thank you for taking them off our hands. I assume the Jukt authorities will be on the way to collect them. Do you know if they'll have the option to join the amnesty program? Yes to the former. I don't know about the latter. I think that deal was only open to the... I trail off, distracted by a patch of green forehead and the tip of a pointy ear that I'm able to see bobbing along behind a line of 80-centimeter tall crates behind her. The Terran follows my gaze and her entire body goes stiff, as she immediately throws herself between me and what I'm now completely unable to look far enough around her to see anymore. Smiling and speaking rapidly as she begins walking towards me, not actually putting hands on me, but insistently enough that I start to reflexively back away down the clear polymer ramp, she says, Oh, well, I shouldn't keep you. I'm sure you've got lots of administration to take care of, and I'd hate to be a hassle.
Thanks again for all your help, officer. It's... She continues that way as I mostly turn my body to start walking away, so I don't fall backwards and tumble all the way down, not leaving me any space to interject. Before I know it, my feet are back on the soil of my planet, and the ramp is rising with the Terran woman still on it, running back aboard.